Good morning and welcome back to the Daily Tanya again. I've received some numerous requests to resume once again the Daily Tanya, and so we're going to start the Daily Tanya again. And it's interesting, we're starting today. Yesterday we started chapter 9 in Tanya, and in this chapter the Alter Rebbe talks about the struggles between the good inclination, the evil inclination. And indeed, sometimes we have to overcome the struggles, to make time to give a shir, to give a Tanya class is not easy. But hopefully, God willing, we'll be able to keep going with this. And today is Monday. It is the 13th day of Teves. It's a leap year. So let's begin with tzedakah. Gedola tzedakah, shemekareves es hageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So, as I said, we're going to start from yesterday's class, the 12th day of Teves, which begins chapter 9 in the Tanya. Now, the Tanya until now discusses the makeup of the person. It talks about the fact we have a godly soul, we have an animal soul. And each one of them, the godly soul is pure godliness, and what is made out of, has in it, contains of the 10 faculties, three intellectual faculties, and it has the 7 emotive faculties, and also discussed it by the three garments of the soul. The way the soul expresses itself is through the thought, speech, and action. Same thing also we have the animal soul. And the animalistic soul is basically the egocentric soul that wants everything for itself, the selfishness. And he explained how all of the urges, not necessarily bad urges, even things that are not bad, even kosher urges. But being that this is not godly, it's considered selfish. And selfish is not good unless you use it out for the proper way. You use it out for Hashem's purpose. And today, in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about where is the dwelling place of the godly soul, which is in the brain. The dwelling place of the animal soul is in the heart, the emotive part of the person. And is going to discuss also something which gives us an understanding, to understand our inner struggles. Sometimes you think to yourself, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? Am I real? Or am I fake? Sometimes, I'm trying to become better and better and grow in spirituality, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, I fall. And I have urges that I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe everything what I did until now is not real. And this is, in a way, a novelty, what the Alter Rebbe brings and teaches us here in the Tanya. That when you have those opposite urges, doesn't mean that your journey is not real. If it would be two souls that are trying to overcome each other, then if you see you fall, it means that you fell. You're not on the right track. But here the Alter Rebbe explains that those two souls really, they both simultaneously are trying to overtake our body. And when you get stronger in one way, there's two souls talking within you. When you get stronger in one way, the other side also tries to get stronger and to overtake the entire body. And this will explain in today's lesson as well. So let's begin. The beginning of chapter 9, which is yesterday's class, the 12th of Teves. And then we'll continue to today's class. Vehine, Says the Alter Rebbe, "Mekoim mishkan nefesh habahamis shemeklipas noiga shebechol ish Yisrael balev." The abode of the animal soul derived from the klipas noiga in every Jew, meaning the place where the animal soul, the nefesh habahamis, resides and is most manifest, is in the heart. Because as mentioned in the previous chapters, the animal soul is predominantly emotional, and the heart is the seat of the emotions. So the animal soul, that is the difference between the animal soul and the godly soul. The animal soul is all about selfishness, which is basically the emotions of the heart. It's all about feeling about life. What is life for you? Life for the animal soul is existing, living, enjoying. It's all about you, nothing about outside of you. And particularly in the heart, says the Alter Rebbe, it is on the left side of the heart, which is filled with blood. The blood carries the soul, and that is the abode of the animal soul. It says, "B'chalal asmolishu mali dam uksivki adamu anefesh." More specifically, the abode of the animal soul is in the left ventricle, as it is filled with blood, and it is written, for the blood is the soul, the nefesh, indicating that the soul resides in that vertical filled with blood, the left ventricle, in that ventricle. So he says, the left side of the heart, obviously we're not talking about a physical place where the soul is. You can't go and have surgery and remove your animal soul. That's not what it is. It is that the animalistic soul that we have is centered in our selfishness, which is our vital soul, which focuses on self. And that is why this is also the root of all our lusts. Because the animal soul resides in the heart, therefore all lusts and boasting and anger and similar passions are in the heart. So it's boasting, anger, it's all about the root is the same thing. It's all about your feeling self. Why do you get angry? Because somebody offended me. It's all about me. It's about living me. So the center of the animalistic soul is the heart. It is the emotions, it's the selfishness, it's me and what is good for me. And from the heart, they spread throughout the entire body. In other words, it begins with the heart, with the emotions, and then it affects every part of your body. You all become immersed in seeking that which your heart desires. And then it goes also to the brain. So it begins in the heart, and then you use the brain to start thinking, how can I get what I want? Rising also to the brain in the heart, to think and meditate about them, and to become cunning in them. Sometimes it's not so easy, it's not so simple to get what you want. וכמו שאדם מכיר בלב, ומהלב נספשת לכל האיברים, וגם עולה למוח שבראש. It says, just as the blood has its source in the heart, and from the heart it circulates into every organ, rising also to the brain and the head. That is the place where the animalistic soul is, the animal soul. Now the other soul, the godly soul which we have, where's the abode of the godly soul? Because the soul fits itself like a glove to the body. And the physical places also is connected with the actual soul. So the spiritual soul, the godly soul, is the other element of the person, which is the awareness. The awareness is not necessarily about yourself, it's about something receiving something which is from outside of yourself. You think and you use your brain to understand that there is something greater, something bigger than just self. There in the brain, you can have the dwelling place of the godly soul. And then from there, it spreads to the rest of the body. But the abode of the divine soul is in the brain, that are in the head, the brains that are in the head, and from there it extends to all of the limbs. The divine soul is essentially intellective, and the brain is the heart of the intellect, the seat of the intellect. Also, the godly soul also has another place. It resides also in the right side of the heart, meaning that in the heart itself also there is a place where the godly soul's understanding becomes revealed, and that he calls it in the rights of the heart that has no blood, doesn't have the oxygenated blood. The divine soul resides also in the heart, in the right ventricle, where there is no blood. As it is written, the heart of the wise man refers to the divine soul. Why? Because in contrast with the animal soul, specifically the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, which is described as an old fool. The animalistic soul, the godly soul, is described as the wise man. Also because Chacham, the wisdom, comes from the bitul, complete nullification to Hashem, to God. And that is, as the verse says, Leiv Chacham Limina, the heart of the wise man is on his right. So we does see that the divine soul resides not only in the brain, but also in the right ventricle of the heart. As he did when speaking of the animal soul, the Alter Rebbe again singles out the heart from among all other organs. Having said that the divine soul extends to all the organs, he mentions the heart specifically. And also in the heart. Why? Because unlike the other organs in which merely the extension of the divine soul is manifest, in the heart, the divine soul itself is revealed. The emotional faculties is revealed, as we'll soon see. That's what Alter Rebbe says now. In the heart, the divine soul is revealed. How? Through understanding the greatness of Hashem, you reach a sense of love and emotions, that you become excited about the godliness that you just perceived in your mind. Is the revelation in the heart of the divine soul residing in the brain, is man's fiery love towards God. Mislaheves believe maskilim, which flares up in the heart of the discerning man, who utilize the power of Chachma, the wisdom, the understanding. Then you have a mevinim u'mizboinanim, who understand and reflect with the faculty of bina, understanding, by which they understand the matter in all its details and ramifications. As we explained in previous lessons, there is the three parts of the intellect. There is the wisdom, understanding the flash, the idea. There is the understanding bina. First is chachma, second is bina. Understanding means elaborating and comprehending, understanding in depth. And then there is the das. Das is the connecting to it, almost like feeling what you understand. So that is the three steps that he mentions here. But the third step is with the knowledge in the brain, meaning with the faculty of das, the knowledge by which they immerse themselves and sensitize themselves in that which they understand. Thus, the love flares up in the heart of those who utilize these all three faculties of Chachma, Bina, and Das. The Alter Rebbe is not going to talk about exactly all the details, what leads the person to understand, but he talks about it in general. When you think about things that arouse the love to Hashem, and matters that arouse this love, meaning contemplation of God's greatness, as the Alter Rebbe will soon conclude. So as explained in the third chapter, understanding the greatness of God leads one to love Him. And this love then is one example of the divine soul reaching for the brain into the heart. Similarly, says the Alter Rebbe, there is also the contemplating of the beauty, the gladness in the heart of the beauty of God, majesty of His glory. Similarly, another deeper way in which the heart's emotion gives expression to the presence of the divine soul in the brain is the gladness of the heart and apprehending the beauty of God and the majesty of His glory. The gladness that is aroused when the divine soul's intellect, which Alter Rebbe, borrowing a phrase from Ecclesiastic, describes as the wise man's eyes. The wise man's eyes, which is in his head, meaning in the brain, harboring his wisdom and understanding. When using this, when these eyes, meaning the intellectual faculties, gaze intently at the glory of the King and the beauty of His unfathomable, infinite, and boundless greatness, then the heart rejoices and is glad, as is explained elsewhere. Similarly, the other holy emotions in the heart, too, such as fear of God and the like, originate from the Chabad, the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge in the brain. So this is where the Nefer, the godly soul, resides in the heart, in the brain, and then goes into the heart as well. Continues the Alter Rebbe in today's lesson of the 13th of Teves. Says the Alter Rebbe, now the problem is that he is not in control alone. There is also the other side. The other side is the animal soul that also wants to control the person. And the Alter Rebbe brings a verse that it says regarding Rebecca, when she had twins in her womb. She didn't know she had twins. And she felt something inside her not resting. And as our sages tell us, she felt that when she came over to a house of worship, of idol worship, she felt the baby going and wanting to come out. And when she went by in a house of a holy place, again, she felt the baby want to come. And she didn't know what's happening until the sage told her that it's not one baby, it's two babies. There's going to be two nations coming out of your womb. And these two nations will fight with each other, and they will prevail over, one will prevail over the other. Meaning it's constantly going to be this struggle, this battle. And our sages explain that this struggle between the two babies in Rivka's room, which is Yaakov and Esav, represents the struggles of the animal soul and the godly soul in each and every person. That we have this constant struggle, and our job is to make sure that we give the last punch. It is written, however, one nation shall prevail over the other nation. The verse refers to Jacob and Esav in terms of a Jew's spiritual life. It is understood as an allusion to the divine soul and the animal soul, respectively, who are constantly warring with each other. So the Alter Rebbe gives an analogy to two kings fighting over a city. And each one of the kings wants to conquer the city and to make sure all of its inhabitants follow its rule. Because the body is called a small city. The two souls in relation to one's body are just as two kings who wage war over a city, which each wishes to capture and dominate even against his will, and to rule with the consent of the populace. That is to say, each king wishes to direct its inhabitants according to his will, so that they obey him in all that he decrees upon them. The same thing is with the two souls, and he begins with the godless soul. So too do the two souls, the divine soul and the vitalizing animal soul, which originates from the klipa. The klipa is the shell, which conceals godliness, conceals the holiness, and is therefore the very antithesis of the divine soul. So these two wage war against each other over the body and all its organs. The body being analogous to the city, and the organs to its inhabitants. So here too, each soul wishes to direct the city's inhabitants according to his will as follows. And it begins with the godly soul. What does the godly soul want? The godly soul wants full control. The divine soul's will and desire is that she alone rule over the person and direct him, so that all organs be subject to her discipline, following and obeying her dictates, and furthermore, that they surrender themselves completely to her, meaning that they not only obey, but also surrender their will to her. And yet, another level, and she desires further still that all the organs become a chariot for her. What does mean a chariot? There's a difference between surrendering your will or becoming a chariot. Surrendering your will means that you have a will, you want to do something, but you know there's something more important and you surrender your will. Become a chariot is like becoming completely nullified, yet you losing your will. You're automatically doing what Hashem wants. Just like a chariot doesn't have its own will. It just follows wherever the rider takes it. So becoming a chariot means that the godly soul wants that from the body, that the body should become completely nullified to the godly soul, that the body itself will serve Hashem in every way, not just in the mind, but in every part of the body. That's how you connect to Hashem, because to connect to Hashem with the mind is one thing, but after all, with the mind, when you connect to Hashem with your mind, with your feelings, is something that you connect. In a sense, you're doing it because, after all, you're doing it for yourself, because you appreciate that this is the right thing to do, so you want to do it. To connect to Hashem really is when it affects the rest of the body. What connects really a person to Hashem? When he does what Hashem wants. So obviously, to reach that level, to do automatically everything, is a very high level to achieve. It's not for the average person. Average person has a constant struggle. But that is what the godly soul wants. Moreover, the divine soul desires that the organs be also a garment, an instrument of expression for her 10 faculties and 3 garments of thought, speech, and actions. So again, the 10 faculties, we're talking about the intellectual faculties and the emotive faculties, and the 3 garments of thought, speech, and action. Everything should be used for godly purposes, which is mentioned above, all of which should clothe the limbs of the body. And the entire body should be permeated with them alone. No alien would then so much as pass through the organs, God forbid. Meaning the animal soul would exert no influence whatsoever in the body. That's the ideal situation. That's what a godly soul wants. So the above form of general description of the divine soul's desire to pervade the whole body, the Alter Rebbe now turns to specifics. Which organs would give expression to each particular faculty or garment of the divine soul. So it goes on to say specifically, the Aina, that is to say specifically the 3 brains, the 3 sections of the brain, which correspond to the 3 intellectual faculties, Chachma, Bina, and Das, they will be permeated with Chabad of the divine soul. What is Chabad? Chachma, Bina, Das, She Chachmas Hashem Binasai, namely in discerning God and understanding Him, meaning applying the faculties of Chachma and Bina to understanding of godliness. By pondering His unfathomable and infinite greatness with these 2 faculties. And through applying this to this meditation, the faculty of Das, as we said, you have the Chachma, the understanding, you have the Bina, you have the wisdom, the understanding, and then you have the Das, the connecting, the implementing, the having the connecting to the emotionally to it. Meaning through immersing oneself in the subject of God's greatness with depth, typical of Das, so that one not only understands this greatness, but actually feels it. So they, meaning his aforementioned faculties of Chachma and Bina, they engaged in pondering God's greatness. They will give birth to an awe of God in his mind and dread of God in his heart. They will also be born of this contemplation, a love of God burning in his heart like a flame, like fiery flashes. His soul will thirst and pine with desire and longing to cleave to the blessed Ein Sof with all his heart, soul, and might. This is similar to what we say in the Shema. V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, we say, love Hashem chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol meidecha, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Me'umke de libo shebechalal ayamani. And this love will rise from the depths of the heart, that is from the right ventricle, the seat of the divine soul, the divine soul's emotional faculties, as mentioned above. And that sheyetoiche rotzuf ava mole vegodush, the kind of love that the divine soul desires entails that the heart be inlaid with love from within. He's talking about different levels of the love. You have first to inlay the love, then filling up the heart with love, and then overflowing the heart with love. What does that mean? First, you have the simple and basic connecting and loving Hashem. Then it becomes filled, and then overflowing means it affects also the other side, the animalistic side. That even with the animalistic side, that the also starts understanding that what is the real thing. It's basically transforming the other side to want to connect to Hashem. So that's what he says. The kind of love that divine soul desires entails that the heart be inlaid with love from within. And furthermore, not only would the love be, as it were, on the surface of the heart, but the heart would also be full with the love, occupying its entire space, as it were. And furthermore, it would be indeed filled to overflowing, meaning the love would overflow into the left part of the heart to affect the emotional faculties of the animal soul, which resides there. As the Alter Rebbe continues, the love would thus inundate the left part of the heart as well, to crush the sitra achra, the other side, specifically the element of the evil water in the animal soul, shei atava shemeklipas noiga, meaning the lust emanating from the klipas noiga. The effect of the divine soul on the animal soul's element of water will be to change and transform it from a lust for mundane pleasures to a love of God. And this, as the Alter Rebbe, is also what we say by the Shema. It says you should love Hashem with all your hearts. B'chol levavcha. Levavcha is like hearts, plural, which means you got to love God not only with your godly soul, but also with your animal soul. As it is written, you shall love God with all your heart, with which our sages interpret basing themselves on the use of the dual form of the word levavcha instead of libcha, which allows the verse to imply with all your hearts, with both your heart, with both your nurtures, with your good inclination and also with your evil inclinations. Accordingly, the evil inclination, meaning the lust of the animal soul, must also come to love God. And this too is part of the divine soul's battle plan. The Alter Rebbe now describes the specific level of love of God that accomplishes this. This transformation of the animal soul, lust, to a love of God, entails rising to attain to the level of Ahava Rabbah, abundant love. A love surpassing even the level of the powerful love, like fire flashes that was mentioned earlier. It's because what is fiery love? This is actually talking about transforming completely. It's talking about very high tzaddikim, high level tzaddikim, the level of Ahava Rabbah. A fiery love is something that you desire something that you don't have. A passionate love. The closer you get to it, the more you want it. You realize that you're still searching, still want to get it. You want to achieve it. That's a passionate love, like you're seeking love of someone that you know that it's not easy achievable, and you want it, and you want more and more. But this love is already a transformative love. It's called the Ahava Rabbah. When you transform, then you conquered also the other side that also wants Hashem, and then it is called more of a calm love, as we'll explain further tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you very much. Bezrat Hashem hopefully will continue. We should have all a wonderful day.